There is a quick check off the highway, not too far from where I live. In my rural town, it is the only thing open 24/7. It's about a 25-minute drive, but my sleep schedule is atrocious, so I've been there often, deep in the night. This happened last week. It was past midnight, and I was coding on my laptop. Around 2 a.m., hunger hit me, so I made the drive. The highway leading there is more of a local road, so it was dead silent. I pulled in, ordered a sandwich, and roamed the aisles while I waited. I was pacing around the back corner when I noticed something odd. Facing one of the refrigerators was a person sitting crisscross on the cold floor. I snapped my head back to make sure I hadn't imagined it. I hadn't. A man in a brown coat and jeans was sitting on the ground, staring intensely at the glass door of the fridge. I walked a few aisles down, planning to turn the corner quickly to get a look at his face. I tried to appear like I was browsing snacks, but as soon as I turned the corner, he whipped his head around. He was far from normal. This guy was definitely on something. His eyes were abnormally wide, and his lip was vibrating rapidly, like he was freezing, even though it was warm inside. But the worst thing was the look he gave me. He wasn't smiling or scowling. He was staring blankly with a dead stare. It felt like the lights were on, but nobody was home. After an uncomfortable staring contest, I grabbed my food and left quickly. As I turned onto the highway, I saw movement in my mirror. The man was running full speed across the parking lot. I watched as he jumped into a pickup truck. I sped up, wanting to get home. But minutes later, on the dark road, I noticed headlights approaching fast behind me. I thought it was a cop, so I slowed down. But as the vehicle got close, I realized it was the pickup truck. It was that guy. I slammed on the gas. He started flashing his high beams and honking. The faster I went, the more terrified I became. By the time I hit 100 miles per hour, I felt true terror. I swerved to let him pass, but he swerved with me, staying inches from my bumper. Suddenly, the truck rammed into me. The impact jolted the car violently. I grabbed the wheel to stabilize it. He was trying to kill me. I saw him winding up to ram me again. On instinct, I swerved hard to the left and slammed the brakes. The truck shot past me, lost control, and spun out into a field. I sped the rest of the way home, shaking uncontrollably, and called the police. They took my statement, but I haven't heard back yet. My car is damaged, but I'm alive. I just hope I never see that dead stare again. This happened in the summer of 2022. I was working a logistics job, hauling electronics through remote parts of the Southwest. This particular night, I was on a desolate stretch of Route 82 in southern New Mexico around 1 a.m. The road is narrow, poorly lit, and completely isolated. I rounded a bend and saw a red hatchback pulled onto the shoulder with its hazards flashing. A woman was standing next to it, waving her phone in the air like she was trying to catch a signal. My first instinct was to drive past. You don't stop for strangers in this area at night. But I thought about my own sister being stranded. Plus, I was armed with a Glock 43 under my steering column, so I felt I could handle myself. I slowed down and cracked the window. She rushed over, pulling at the locked door handle. She said her car died and she needed a ride. Her voice was jittery and she was slurring her words. I hesitated, but eventually unlocked the door. She got in, refusing to look at me, and just kept saying, "Thank you, just drive." I asked her what was wrong with her car, but she deflected the questions. I was about to kick her out when I glanced at my side mirror. A man stepped out from behind her hatchback where he had been hiding. I turned forward and saw another figure stepping into the road ahead of us, holding a metal pipe. It was a trap. I floored the gas. The woman in the passenger seat screamed and started digging frantically in her purse. I knew she was reaching for a weapon. I drew my gun and rested it on the steering wheel, yelling at her to freeze. She saw the firearm and went still, staring straight ahead. We drove in tense silence for 30 minutes until we reached a busy gas station in Artesia. I pulled in near some truckers and forced her out of the vehicle. She fell onto the pavement screaming, trying to make a scene to turn the truckers against me. I didn't wait around to explain. I peeled out of the lot immediately. Later, at a different station, I checked the passenger seat. Buried between the cushions was a burner phone battery and a sealed pack of heavy-duty zip ties. They had planned to tie me up and take the truck. I never reported it because of the gun, but being armed that night saved my life. 3 years ago, my husband and I were driving cross-country. We were cutting through a desolate section of western Kansas along Route 400. Around 10 p.m., my husband stopped at a tiny, run-down gas station to refuel. I decided to run in and use the restroom. I didn't bring my phone. The bathrooms were down a narrow, dimly lit hallway. As I opened the door, I almost bumped into a woman coming out of a stall. She looked unkempt, with greasy gray hair and a thick winter coat, despite it being July. She stared at me with a predatory intensity, then turned around and followed me toward the sinks. She didn't wash her hands. She just stood there watching me, blocking the exit path. Feeling unsafe, I bypassed the sinks, went into a stall, and locked it. I sat there in silence, regretting leaving my phone in the car. Eventually, I heard her flip-flops slap against the floor, followed by the heavy door opening and slamming shut. I waited a moment to make sure she was gone. Then I heard it. Breathing, raspy, wet breathing coming from the corner of the room near the door. She had faked leaving. She had slammed the door, but stayed inside to trick me. I froze, terrified she would hear me. Minutes passed in agonizing silence. Finally, the door opened and closed again. The breathing stopped. I waited another 30 seconds before unlocking the stall. Just as I did, I heard a dramatic gasp and the door slammed again. She was playing games with me. I couldn't take the suspense anymore. I kicked the stall open and ran out. The bathroom was empty. I rushed through the store, staying close to another customer to use him as a shield while I exited. When I stepped outside, I saw her. She was crouching in the shadows near the entrance, holding what looked like a knife. She was glaring at me with pure hatred. Before I could scream, she turned and disappeared behind the building. I ran to the car and told my husband to drive. As we pulled away, I saw her standing at the edge of the building, watching us fade into the dark. I never use roadside restrooms anymore. In January 2020, I was delivering automotive parts across the Midwest. It was a freezing night on I-80, heading east from Des Moines. Around 10:30 p.m., fighting highway hypnosis, I pulled into a deserted rest area. The only other vehicle was a beat-up white van parked in the dark at the far end of the lot. I went into the restroom to splash water on my face. When I looked in the mirror, I thought I heard the door creak, but no one was there. When I stepped back outside, the white van's headlights were on. The engine wasn't running, but the lights were cutting through the dark, aiming right at me. I felt a primal sense of danger. I jumped in my truck and left. As I hit the exit ramp, the van's lights turned off. 5 minutes later, on the highway, headlights appeared behind me. It was the van. It caught up fast, tailgating me inches from my bumper. Then it pulled alongside me. The driver, wearing a baseball cap low over his eyes, rolled down his window and started pointing frantically at my truck bed. He was mouthing words, acting like my cargo was falling out. I almost pulled over, but then I remembered my truck bed was empty. I had already dropped off my load. He was lying to get me to stop. I stared straight ahead. When he realized I wasn't stopping, he became aggressive, swerving into my lane to run me off the road. I slammed the brakes, let him fly past, and then floored it. He chased me for 20 miles. I finally saw a sign for a busy truck stop and took the exit at high speed. I pulled right up to the diesel pumps where other truckers were standing. I ran inside and told the waitress and a large trucker that I was being chased. We walked outside just in time to see the white van idling at the edge of the lot, facing us. The trucker started walking toward them aggressively. The van immediately reversed and peeled out back onto the highway. The trucker told me there were 2 men in the van, both wearing hoodies up over their faces. When I checked my truck later, I found greasy hand smudges on my tailgate. They had tried to open it while I was in the rest stop bathroom. I quit that job a few months later.